Class in Session. My name is Afua Hagan and I'll be your host for today's episode, which is all about managing finances. Finances have a profound impact on university students, influencing their academic success, mental well-being and overall university experience. From tuition fees to living expenses, the financial burden can be substantial and may put some off from pursuing the degree that would land them their dream job. If the above is something that you've thought about or has worried you, then this episode of Class in Session is for you. Now, today we're speaking to my fabulous guests, Alison, Nicola, and Aleesha. Alison, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself.
Hello, so I'm Professor Alison Watson and I'm Head of School for Leadership and Management at Arden University.
Thank you, Alison. And Aleesha?
Hello, my name is Aleesha Mohammed and I'm a student in my third year studying criminology and psychology.
Lovely. And Nicola?
Yeah, so I'm Nicola Frampton. I'm the Insight Manager at Student Minds, which is the UK's student mental health charity. And my role is all about understanding student mental health and what we can do to improve it.
Nicola, I'm going to come to you first. Mental well-being, financial well-being certainly go hand in hand. What do you think are the main misconceptions that people have when it comes to the financial aspects of university?
Yeah, so I think there's a common misconception that all students are a very privileged group and can rely on their parents for financial support throughout university. And there's kind of an idea that students are otherwise actually just financially insecure a lot of the time. And that doesn't actually need to be the case. We know that lots of students can get through university supporting themselves financially and shouldn't have to face financial hardship whilst at university. But there are lots of different ways that students actually support themselves financially whilst at university, and lots of them aren't able to rely on mum and dad, for example. For financial support, lots of students work during their studies or work part-time alongside their studies at university. Lots of students engage in other forms of income generation as well, have their own businesses, for example. So I think people just generally misunderstand how students experience university financially and how they get through university financially. And there's not necessarily that kind of understanding of everything that happens in students' lives.
Aleesha, what were some of your misconceptions about student finances and what do you wish you'd known beforehand?
I think one of the things, misconceptions would have been being able to work and study, especially if you've got kids, just being able to make that time. And I found with Arden, with the blended learning, that was a possibility. So being able to work and finding a job that was flexible regarding around studies and family lives. So had I known, I didn't know that was an option, being able to study and being able to work and also student finance and all the other support around studying.
Alison, what are some of the misconceptions that students come to you with when they get to university in regard to their finances?
The questions that we do get, particularly in blended learning, where students are on campus, so they sign up to a full-time course, and the questions that I get asked is, can they work? Well, of course they can. So as long as they don't get a full-time job, they can work around their studies. But the beauty of what Arden does is it structures the timetable where the students only have to commit to 8 hours on campus, and then the rest of the study is asynchronous. So it's through the virtual learning environment and their own independent study. So if a student wants to work, say, after their class, on an afternoon, they can do that, and then they can pick up their studies again on an evening. And it's the worry around that, on how do they survive during university, and it's explaining to them about how they can plan their time and the work and their additional study time and the family. We've got to remember that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Nicola, what would you say are the main problems that are facing students when it comes to their finances particularly?
Life is expensive, so the cost of accommodation is a real big problem for a lot of students. We know that prices have increased in student accommodation and the private rental sector over the last couple of years at a faster rate of the maintenance loan, for example. So we see a lot of struggles around that with a lot of students, find it difficult to kind of budget effectively because the kind of income doesn't balance with the outgoings that they have. And yeah, I just think the cost of living has had a real impact on a lot of students in the last couple of years, which we've seen having mental health impacts as well. In our kind of role at Student Minds, we're seeing that becoming increasingly an issue.
Aleesha, you're a student at the moment. What are the main challenges facing you financially?
Budgeting, really. What I struggled with was before student life, I didn't have to think as much about budgeting. But especially now, since I started studying and then the cost of living, just being able to budget and also take advantage of any, student discounts that's out there and sign up for those. I feel like that makes a difference as well. When it comes to my my spending and just being mindful. And most importantly, I know it's a short period and try to look at the end goal. And knowing that, at the end of it, I'll be able to get a job that, a career that I want to, and hopefully better income.
Alison, how has the cost of living crisis changed things?
It has impacted on our students, quite a number of our students. So at Arden University, our population of students is predominantly mature students who do have a lot of commitments, and a number of students have been impacted on that, and we can help them in a number of ways. So we can direct them, like you mentioned, the maintenance loan. We can help them with that. There's a lot of information within Arden. So there's childcare grants that we can help direct students to, but also we have hardship fund in Arden University, and this is where students can come. It is means tested, but students can come and ask for help. With IT, we have laptop loan scheme as well. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to help the students as much as possible with the current situation as it is at the moment. We also have self-service as well, which is ideal for the students. So a system called Black Bullion, where the students can tap into that for advice and support as well. And obviously we offer the pastoral, look, let's help you. You come and talk to us. Let's plan how you can manage yourself during the 3 years, the 4 years, however long you are studying with us.
Nicola, what have you heard about the cost of living crisis and how it's impacting students? What are students saying to you, and what effect is that having on their mental health as well?
Yeah, we know that students are really stressed about the cost of living, and it's having quite a detrimental impact on their well-being and their mental health more generally. Because I think if you know that bills are on the way in and you need to pay for your accommodation, but perhaps your income is feeling increasingly stretched as things have become more expensive, that is obviously going to have an impact on potentially your money worries, your anxiety levels, and balancing all of that at the same time as studying. You've got deadlines, you've got exams coming up. All of that can kind of build up and become quite overwhelming, I think, for a lot of students. So we hear that quite a lot, and we see students kind of reaching out for support around managing a budget, understanding where to get support, like hardship funds and Black Bullion and all incredible resources. So we see that a lot. Lots of students feeling quite concerned about it, and that's only really been exacerbated by the cost of living crisis. So yeah, we've seen on our platform Student Space, a lot of our top performing content is around financial well-being and financial support and finding funding and managing your own finances as well. So yeah, it's definitely a common problem, I think, amongst the student body at the moment.
Have you seen a lot of students leaving because of the cost of living crisis?
Definitely lots of students thinking about it, at least. We don't provide direct supports for students, so I imagine you might have more insight around students actually leaving, but we know it's definitely a concern for a lot of students where they feel like actually perhaps, like you said, getting a full-time job might be their only option at this point, and they feel like they can't persevere with their studies at this moment in time. So it's definitely, we're seeing a lot of students kind of weighing up their options and thinking about leaving university for financial reasons and for well-being reasons as well. Like when that feeling becomes so overwhelming that actually it's kind of easier to just step aside at some point. We definitely do hear that for sure.
Alison, what would you say to a student who felt that way, that just thought, you know what, it's actually becoming too much?
So we do have the support in all of the centres and online as well through our student success coaches. And what they'll do is they'll understand what exactly the complexities are and try and work through the problem with them, because ultimately we don't want the students to leave us, because they've come to us because they want that life chance and to get their degree. So we'll do what we can to help them with that. I mean, we do, let's be realistic about it. We have lost some students because of the current situation, but we will try and coach them and look at alternative ways. It might be that we could offer them transferring onto distance learning, for instance, and coming off blended learning if they needed the full-time job, like you said, so they could go back to work full-time and then do their studies on an evening or on a weekend when they've got that space.
Aleesha, is there any support that you've accessed, and how helpful did you find it?
Yeah, there's definitely been a lot of support I've accessed. And to be honest, yeah, regarding leaving and stuff, that has crossed my mind a number of times. So some of the support I was able to access is the mental health, black bulletin as well for the budgeting. So there's been, a few services I have access through Arden, just because there's been times where, I've just felt that I can't do this anymore. Both, it does have a massive, finances does have a massive impact on your mental health, and then having to deal with the deadlines and studying and, taking all that new knowledge and new information in at the same time. But I kept at it, and I felt, had the support not been there, it would have been a different, completely different outcome. But I do relate to some students maybe not feeling confident enough or not knowing, even though we do Arden have put it out there a lot, through different platforms of the support available, but some students might not feel they want to talk about their finances. And for those students, I always feel like any student, like even if it's some of my classmates, I always say that just feel confident. And if you don't, speak about it, the problem is not just going to resolve itself. And I find the support and the people that I do encounter that are offering these services have always been great. There's no judgment. There's no I haven't felt any negativity coming from them or anything like that. So, I feel been privileged, to be able to access those services.
Alison, what does Arden offer in terms of support that perhaps other universities don't or haven't come around to yet?
I think it's the structure that we've got in place. We don't just have the student support team. We've got experienced people that can actually help pinpoint what the issues are and to be able to direct and support the students. So I've already mentioned the success coaches, but we have a vast inclusions team as well. So it might actually be something around, say, for instance, disability or special educational needs, that additional funds can be accessed to help the student. So I know that that's across the board in universities, but I think it's the fact that we have allocated people to allocated students. So you'd said about some students not having the confidence to talk about their finances, but those students, before they leave us, they do need to speak to somebody. And I think that's when they really do find that pinch point and the support, or certainly of the success coach. And then, as I say, the success coach will guide the journey from there.
And I think there's really, this is where flexibility comes into play, isn't it? Flexibility on your course and be able to do things differently, especially for students from disadvantaged backgrounds. Alison, sorry, I'll come back to you. What is on offer for students that may have those different requirements?
The students, as I say, they're on campus 2 days a week for 4 hours each, but then they have asynchronous sessions, so that they've still got lecturer contact time, but it's on the virtual learning environment and it's on the discussion forum. So it might be that they're struggling with something, they post on the forum, other students can dip in and help, or the lecturer can come and respond to them as well. But because it's asynchronous, there's no pressure, there's no time pressure, because not everybody needs to be there at that time. So that's offering the flexibility, and certainly with our distance learning students as well. So that is all online, and all of the materials for both our blended students and distance learning students is on the virtual learning environment. the distance learning students, they do get a synchronous, so a lecture or a seminar every week in most of the schools, either every week or bi-weekly in the schools. But the beauty of that is that it's recorded. So they can, again, dip into it when they want to. Because it's distance learning and we're a global university, we've got this issue with time zones as well. So again, we plan the sessions so it's going to capture some time zone during the week across the semester. But it just gives that flexibility, the recordings in particular, and the student feedback that we get is really, really good on the recordings, is that they can go back to it and they can go back to it again. And I think that helps. And the fact that we offer office hours for that one-to-one. So again, if a student's been distracted or something like that because of the financial situation, they can then arrange one-to-one sessions, whether that's on campus or online as well.
Aleesha, is flexibility something that you've taken advantage of?
Oh yeah, 100%. I feel without the flexibility, I wouldn't have been able to, study at a degree level, definitely, because it's given me time to also work and to spend time with family, my kids. So yeah, the flexibility and having the recordings and the one-to-one and all these things in place definitely helps.
Nicola, how important is it for students to know coming into Arden that they have that flexibility and support throughout their degree?
Yeah, it's super important. I think it's about inclusivity and accessibility, isn't it? And making sure that everybody knows that they've got the opportunity to take part in this learning experience and the opportunity to go and get that degree that they're interested in, and that the barriers that have previously existed for lots of students are proactively being removed by Arden, which is really positive to hear, which is allowing more people to actually be able to access the higher education that they want to access and not have to worry that they need to be in this place at this time to engage with their learning, but actually they can do stuff that works around them and works for their own personal kind of lifestyles. With everyone's busy, everyone's kind of managing their own personal responsibilities, and so being able to fit it in a way that isn't kind of as possible with traditional forms of learning is super important. And it's really great to hear that kind of that's becoming more commonplace in places like Arden.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to ask you all this question, but I'll put it to you, Aleesha, first. What are your top tips on managing work while studying?
I would say time management. Having a schedule in place, it's what works for me. And I feel I get very overwhelmed when my day's not organized. And I feel being organized has definitely helped me take off a lot of the stress I would otherwise feel. And being able to, whether, I know what I'm doing, and then each day, and then fitting my studies into that studying and, and not neglecting all my other responsibilities. So I would say time management, definitely. And just being able, it's hard in the beginning if you're not used to a schedule, but sticking to it. And most importantly, also making time for yourself. So yeah, that's one of the things, don't get burned out. It's what I always say, yeah. So
that's a good tip. Don't get burned out. Alison, your top tips for working and studying?
I would definitely say have a plan and a schedule and get into a routine as soon as possible. I'd also say share with the people around you as well, that this is going on, you're working, you've got your study as well, this is how I'm feeling, and get that support network around you, because that will help you to succeed.
Nicola, your top tips?
Yeah, I think that's all brilliant advice. I would definitely echo. And I think it's about healthy habits, getting to know kind of what works for you when you do start to feel burnt out, what you can do for yourself to kind of step in there and do some self-care and step back. Maybe you need a routine in place or a bit of time management planning in place. But I think it is really tough because more and more students are feeling it's necessitated to have to work more. So I do think that is it's a tough question and a bit of a struggle, but yeah, brilliant advice. I would definitely echo.
What would you say to a student who would say, I don't think I can go to uni. It's not for me because it's too expensive and because the cost of living is too high?
Yeah, I think it's a really valid concern. I think the current climate is really challenging, but I think definitely explore all of the options of support. Support is available to students. Have a think about whether you are able to work alongside and what that looks like for you and your kind of circumstances. And definitely, do some research, because there are lots of students out there who are managing part-time work alongside studies. Part-time studies are also an option for lots of students who do have to work and maybe can't access as much financial support. So yeah, definitely explore the options and consider it if it's something that you're really interested in.
Alison, what would you say to someone who's thinking, I can't go to uni, it's just financially beyond me right now?
Well, again, discuss the options with them as well. But I would also probably probe if there was anything else that was stopping them, because there's lots of help out there financially. So it might be just to give them that coaching and that kind of mentoring of you can do it, and that encouragement to give it a go.
And Aleesha, what would you say to someone who thought finances was standing in the way of their career?
I would say if they're already working or looking to start a job, or it's also to be transparent with their employers, and if they're studying, just be open. I find that that's what's helped me with my work. And what you might be surprised, some employers would actually be very supportive and understand why you're studying. So especially with the blended learning, I feel there is opportunity for you to work and study or distance if you don't want the face-to-face. It just depends on what works for the person. But yeah, for me, I chose blended learning because I just wanted that face-to-face interactions and not just be behind the screen. So that worked. That's my way of learning. But I haven't, and I work part-time, and that's worked for me.
So be open, talk to your employer.
Yeah. I feel, especially with when the timetables change, I was able to change my working hours around that, and just giving them enough notice. Obviously, as soon as I know what my schedule will be for studying, I then report that back, and they've been open. They've been happy to change my working shifts.
Brilliant. Well, Aleesha, Alison and Nicola, thank you so very much for sharing your insights. They've been really, really valuable today. Some students face challenges in managing their finances, often juggling part-time or even full-time jobs with coursework. Such financial strain can lead to stress, affecting mental health and academic performance, and sometimes can limit access to resources like textbooks, technology, and educational opportunities, further worsening inequalities. It's important to remember that support will be available for you, whether it's mental well-being support or the ability to flex your studies that will fit with your lifestyle. Thank you to our guests for offering their tips and, of course, their insights. And if you enjoyed this episode, do check out our other episodes. You can listen and watch them on Spotify and YouTube.